What do you do when the money stops rolling in, but you have an amazing idea? What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Fervent Four. Did you know that only 4% of businesses ever cross the annual $1 million revenue mark? Hello, I'm Zach Miller, author of Anomaly, and with me today, I have my co-host Tim Ryan, somewhere over there on the internet, lead man at startwheel.org. Thank you so much for joining us. The Fervent Four is a weekly show each and every Thursday at 11 a.m. dedicated to sharing insights and to growing a world-class business no matter the climate. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Kathy Reagan Young.
Woo!
You're the first person to ever get it like spirit
Dude,
hands.
jazz
and,
hands?
Jazz hands. That is
Woo!
fantastic. What movie is that from?
I don't know. I think of it as oh my gosh, it was a show with Just Jack. Remember Just Jack? Will and Grace. I don't know. I'm showing
Did you watch the remake of Will and Grace?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I tried. It wasn't as good.
You know, I always think it's interesting. What are the first few questions that I'm going to ask going to be? And, you know, Jazz Hands and Will and Grace got its first appearance on the show.
That wasn't on your list?
That one would have been, like, if this was Vegas, that would have been in the this is other category. It would have been in the other category, right?
We started auspiciously.
Yeah. So, Kathy, you and I met a few years ago. You and Tim just met 13 minutes ago. So this is going to be an exciting ride. Mm-hmm. Remind me, when we first met in probably 2015, 2016 time,
right?
You had started this whole shenanigans, this business. You had also had a very popular Facebook group at the time, but at some point before that, you had that light bulb moment, if you will. You had that aha moment. Kind of walk me through kind of the down part of it that led you to kind of the up and the idea part of it.
Sure. Well, I should give you a little bit of a backstory, which
as much as you want.
It starts
60-minute show, though.
Okay. I'll edit. It starts with me being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2008. And everything on the internet about multiple sclerosis at that time was doom and gloom and horrible and just awful. So once I kind of got my legs under me and figured out that this is a life sentence, but it's not a death sentence, I wanted to kind of share that with others. So I started a website called FUMSnow.com, where I just really provided information, inspiration, and motivation for people to live their best lives with MS. And I just wanted to let them know that there's a lot of life after diagnosis, and a lot of it has to do with your attitude. So that was the concept. And it was just kind of a passion project. It was really about providing a soft place to land, particularly for newbies being diagnosed. When I was diagnosed, my doctor actually said to me, I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and he said, I'm glad that you're a stay-at-home mom because stress is absolutely the worst thing for MS. It'll bring on relapses. So, don't ever work, which was hilarious to me because I thought, you don't really understand what being a stay-at-home mom is then, because I have never worked so hard in my entire life, nor have I ever known stress like that. So, between that and when I hear somebody tell me I can't or shouldn't.
Was the doctor male?
I'm sorry? Was the doctor male? Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm learning as I think it's important to ask and listen a lot. And so it seems like a lot of males don't grasp a lot of concepts because they don't live through it. So it's
bingo.
So I think as someone who's screwed up a lot to have to learn from that, I think we have to figure out, okay, why is that happening, right? And so it's interesting that you said that, stay at home mom gets it, but the guy who's never done it doesn't get it. So
right, cool. Yeah, and that is not putting your feet up and eating bonbons. When you're stay-at-home mom, you were really working hard, and it's very stressful. And I've always been the personality where if somebody tells me I can't or I shouldn't, I hear that as you can and you should. It's almost like a double dog dare. So as soon as my youngest was in school full-time, I went back to work full-time, which I loved and enjoyed so much. But he was right. It kicked my tail. So I don't know, probably 2-3 years into it, I had to leave because of my MS. It was just too much. So, the great thing was, okay, I can be home taking better care of myself, but I always say my paycheck quit coming and my bills didn't, which is true. And I needed to figure out how to generate an income and yet still take care of myself. Um, and it occurred to me that I had this asset that I had been building that was purely a passion project, but it was in fact an asset. And how do I monetize this? So I started looking into how to monetize my blog. And I had started a podcast at that point. So how do you monetize a podcast?
So what was the passion project at that point? It was just
FUMS. Yeah,
and
it
so,
was FUMS.
so
I had the
blogs
blog,
on
I had the podcast. Yeah. Yeah. So I needed to figure out how to monetize those things. And I did. I mean, it was, I say I did like it was just like that. There are a lot of scammers on the interwebs. And I think I signed up for all of their classes. So
was this in terms of subscribe and do business with me, and I'll monetize it in ways that you never thought you could monetize it?
Well, sort of. There was a lot of courses, how to monetize your blog, how to monetize your podcast. There was a lot of that. And then, what is affiliate marketing and how do you implement that on your website? So, and eventually I did find a coach that was really, really going to help me, for multiple $1,000s. And
have you heard of Hatch at this point?
I had actually. I had been part of Hatch.
We were one of those lousy course coaches.
No, not at all. Not at all. No. In fact, Hatch was the touchstone of reality and speaking to people who were really doing what they were saying they were doing. So it helped illuminate the BS that I was dealing with, when you could sit across from somebody and talk to them about what was really working for their website. And then I'd go, God, I just paid, $500 to hear somebody tell me the exact opposite, but this person's actually doing it. So Hatch was fantastic for that. Really helped me understand what works.
So something that I like, it irks me. And I'm interested in how you figured this part out. But like it is like those scammers that are out there that are like not even just what Tim had said, where like give us $1,000 and we'll give you 1,000 whatevers. More like how do you like understand that someone legit went through a scenario? And I don't think that scenario or is as good as they say they are. And I don't think that person has to necessarily be the top dog in that, but to at least know that person has done it. And so like, I always like to think of it, has at least done it, right? I don't care that they've lost it, but they've at least, I mean, I'm sure we know they've learned something in there, but it's like, you don't go to your accountant and ask them about your teeth probably. Right. And so I call it the Shark Tank effect, where it's like these people watch Shark Tank and now they're the greatest business coaches in the world. It's like, well, hold on, like you're missing, you got 3 minutes of video and there's no context there. You don't understand why this doesn't work. So how did you figure out what was legit and what's not? And how do you still figure out what's legit and what's not in kind of the business advice online or in-person world?
Yeah, you make a great point. And that is, have they done the damn thing? Because if they haven't, they don't know what they're talking about. Right. And, I have dealt with the concept of not, can I present myself as the authority in this site, as a patient advocate, as teaching somebody how to get paid as a patient, that sort of thing. And the truth is, being an expert you don't have to have years of experience behind you. You don't have to have every kind of success. In fact, I think you should have some failures in there and just kept going. You're an expert when you are ahead of someone, when you are steps ahead of someone else and can look back and say, let me show you the path of how I got here. So that's what I run everything through now. Have they done it? And again, they don't have to be 20 years ahead of where, I am, but you need to be ahead of me and you need to have gone through what I am coming up on to help me understand the path.
Yeah, and it's I'm really interested about the whole sense of community that you found with Hatch. Just and for those that aren't aware, Hatch was a place that Zach founded many years ago, and it was a place where people could just join together and share lessons learned. You knew that you weren't in it alone. I mean, what's your take? I mean, because so you had multiple senses of community, and how has that impacted you and help you've grown your business today?
Well, it's so important, and I think it's funny that so many people now through the pandemic are understanding the importance of community, but it's always been important. It's just more difficult to do it now. So I guess that it's in lesser supply, the law of supply and demand. That the Hatch community was such a touch point for me because everything I was doing was online, and this sort of thing is great, but I loved going. I think it was every Tuesday I'd go to Hatch, go to Norfolk, and sit down with other like-minded people who knew the language I was speaking. So a lot of people, particularly my age, aren't necessarily talking about online business. Nobody knew what the hell a podcast was when I started it. None of my friends. And so being able to speak to other like-minded entrepreneurs who are going through the same things or had been through them, that I could pick their brain, or I could say, gosh, I just ran into this. What do you think? It was pivotal. It was instrumental in developing my sense of, definitely my sense of pivot, as I call it, because I watched these people try things. They were flexible and they would try new things. And then the next week we'd come together and I'd go, like, how did it go? You were going to try this, whatever, contest or something on social media, or how did that go? And, if it flew, great, they're going to capitalize on it. But if it didn't, they didn't beat up on themselves. They just tried something else. They didn't quit. And so that was such a great lesson to me, that like, you don't fail unless you quit. Just keep trying. Just try something else. If that doesn't work, try something else, and be willing to admit that something's not working. Like, it's, fail fast.
Yeah. And the other thing that is really neat about places like that is just the sense of authenticity, because it's not driven from the top down type of thing, saying that you just can't set out to create something like that. It just has to happen. And when it does happen, it's something really special.
And it really was. It really was. It was such a neat place to hang out and learn and just talk and catch up and have that one-on-one interaction, which, back then most people weren't jonesing for like I was. I was working online. That was not everybody was doing that. So that was a, special opportunity.
Way back when.
Back in the day.
It is interesting to think about that. So, and I'm sure I'd heard this before, but I hadn't thought about it recently. But for someone who has done a lot of online things, to have that physical place was a nice thing. And I think that's what a lot of co-working spaces probably try to push, is that community aspect.
But it's tough. You can't just, it just has to happen.
The right people have to be there. And I felt like I was filtering people out by kind of being like abrasive towards the people that I didn't want to be there. Right. I was going to say a way worse word than that, but I decided that abrasive. I've matured in my life.
Well, and I think that's what's so cool about the entrepreneurial community is that it's self-policing. So if you have those people that Kathy was talking about that are trying to scam you and they don't know what it's like, I mean, they're just automatically pushed out of the group.
They were always welcome. But people would let them, and
they're going to get found out.
Last people, I remember I had a banker come in once. She said something to me. I don't remember who it was, but she was like, "Oh, we're so small business friendly," and I literally was like, "BS." I was like, if you were so startup and small business friendly, by the way, the majority of the businesses who walk in here have been in business for less than 1,000 days, which doesn't meet your criteria. So don't tell me, because you have to do these things with the bank, you have to be 3 years less or 3 years or more in records and yada, yada. And I was like, look, you don't have to give me a spiel. I don't want to hear a spiel. Just stop telling people that you are this thing when you clearly are not. If all you want to do is get people with a business account to sign up for your account, and that's what you think is small business friendly, sure. But you know what you're telling me is not true, and I don't think that person ever came back, because I was abrasive towards people, and I think a lot of people probably took that as like, this guy's such he's such a clown. I can't believe that this guy is like getting all this attention. But it's like, because I was that person, that's what brought the right crowd in, instead of just a bunch of people trying to hand out business cards and selling 24/7.
Yeah, we were really working there. It wasn't a bunch of posers. We were there in the trenches doing the work.
That's interesting, the word poser, because I feel like there is a lot of top-down thoughts of what entrepreneurship really looks like. And sometimes I question whether or not they think that people actually work, or they know what work actually looks like. And so that's interesting. Or you're just working on your computer. Yeah. So
yeah. You know, the interesting thing about that, Zach, is I really believe that nobody that, like, friends and family, have any clue of what I do day to day.
Yeah.
No idea. Yeah. And
even immediate family, husband, kids.
Oh yeah. No, I agree. I mean, they have they hear me talking about, well, I'm doing this interview, or I'm, whatever, but what does that mean? They don't really know,
because they've been taught for so long. The compounding effect of that is saying, hey, this is what work looks like. And then somewhere in there, the internet came through, and that changed everything, where it allowed some people to make that a business. And it's not like those people who don't understand don't use the internet. Right. They just created their own career off of the internet.
Yeah, exactly. I think, and it's delineated certainly by age. Those of us who grew up with the concept that you went to work 9 to 5 or much longer, and you just worked yourself into an early grave. Yeah, it's a tough, when you grew up thinking that, and that has been reinforced, it's tough, I think, to make that switch and to feel like comfortable in this space, particularly when your friends don't know the language. Even they don't understand. When I first started a podcast, I remember people going like, "What is are you on a radio? What's a podcast?" People my age, and that's just that's tough when everybody that you hang out with, everybody that you love, is living a certain way, and you're kind of forging your own path that they don't understand and can't support. You have to have a real belief, a solid foundation in what you're attempting to do anyway, in believing that you're choosing the right path to stick with it. Because
do you have friends that aren't entrepreneurs?
Yeah, most of them are not entrepreneurs, which is interesting. I hadn't really thought about that till you just said that. Yeah, but
I took an inventory of my friends, like my good friends, at one point, and I was like, they're all business owners.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That would be helpful. That would be really helpful to me. But
I don't think it has to just be like entrepreneurs type of thing. I think you surround yourself around the people that do things that you want to do, right? So it could be people in the MS world, right? Mm-hmm. It could be moms, soccer moms. Soccer moms get a bad
volleyball moms.
Volleyball moms, whatever.
Volleyball mom, thank you.
Maybe think of like running with Tim, or like Tesla lovers and things like that.
Right.
And so it's like you have this club of people, that community, and it's that's I don't know. It just made me think about that. But yeah,
most of my down the community. I just think you're going to do whatever it is that you're interested in, and whatever you want to push forward, whatever you want to do better in, you're going to do better faster in a community. I'm 100%.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm really interested in terms of how you built the community that you built. How did that take place? What did you do? Did you even realize that you're even working at it? I would love to hear about that.
Well, I'm trying to think. So I guess the FUMS community obviously came first. And again, I didn't set out to build a big community, but I did set out to let people know that I was there. Like starting the Facebook page, I think was my first foray into community building. And that was just more like with the jazz hands again. Hey, I'm over here. Hey, MSers, like, here's the place to come and learn more about what life with MS is like. And we can talk about the drugs. We can talk about PT services. We can talk about all kinds of things. And that was the thing. It opened up a dialogue. There was a conversation. There was a question and answers. And when they were asking questions and I was able to give them answers, great. So that built my authority, right? And when they were asking questions and I wasn't able to answer, but I said, I don't know, but I'm going to find out, that built up my credibility. And it also helped me figure out what it is people in this space need and what they need to learn. And so that's what I concentrated on. And that synergy continues today. So it really started growing organically, and certainly really expanded when I started the podcast. So I'm a huge proponent for podcasts. They do magical things.
So two things in here that I think are important, but I love, no, I said it and I knew I was going to do this. Oh, I forgot my train of thought.
You must be catching MS from me. This is a hallmark of MS. We get cog fog.
You can't catch it on the internet, can you?
Maybe. Another conspiracy theory.
I love that you said, I don't know, right? I think a lot of people will try and answer things. And it's like, I know nothing about that. So like people ask me legal questions. I'll be like, I don't know. Well, why don't you hire a lawyer? Right?
But more importantly, Zach, you don't say, I don't know. Why don't you go do this? Because I asked you that question about an attorney. You said, I don't know, but let me introduce you to somebody who does. I mean, that's the key to a community leader, is being able to facilitate things. And saying I don't know is a gift to everybody involved.
Saying no is a gift, but I think you said it gained respect of other people because you didn't just say I don't know. You then took it to the next step, which is obviously the important, I think, piece of this.
Figure it out.
You did two things in there that I think are interesting. I'll preface it like this: when someone and the business world, all the marketers out there are telling you to do something, I believe it's too late. Right? Because that means too many people are probably doing it at that point, and that thing is now camouflaged amongst everyone, right? Mm-hmm. But you did two things in there, I think, before they really hit that kind of critical mass that I was talking about being too much. Number one is you did a Facebook page, which was still pretty early on at that point, and then you started a podcast, which until this year, in the last 18 months, I still think you had some runway to start a podcast. Now, I don't think people should be starting podcasts because I think they're that camouflage thing and they're going to get lost. When there
I'm going to argue that with you, but go ahead.
Oh, what, the podcast thing? Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's go. But mm-hmm. what like when others weren't super deep into stuff at that point, like Facebook pages are now huge, right? Podcasts are now huge. What did you do from a marketing perspective to get those people to see FUMS at that time when no one knew it?
Yeah. Well, this goes back to more community. So know your community. So I went and found, Facebook pages first and then groups, that others that existed. And, I kind of latched onto their authority. So I would post things, when there were questions on their pages that I could help answer. I mean, I never came in like you're coming into a party and selling. I mean, I went in there and I gave value and I helped people and I would answer questions. And then naturally they'd go, who's this? She helped me. I wonder who this is. And they'd seek me out that way.
Okay, so let's walk through this. So
yeah,
you start your Facebook page, you go to another Facebook page that is somewhat related to yours. And when that creator, that page is asking questions or pushing out content, other people are engaging in there, you would roll into that conversation and start giving your feedback on what it is, and then somehow that would drive back to you? Or how did you then?
Yeah, they would. Yeah, absolutely. Because people would take notice that I'm answering a lot of questions. And so they have this social proof of the fact that I have some answers, some help for them.
And they
And
would
they would,
peruse your
yeah.
stuff, and then you would have that stuff linked back?
Yes.
Or
Yes. And I always would seek out the admin at these larger pages and groups. And oftentimes I would have them on my podcast. And naturally, then they are going to share that with their community. So I was introduced to communities that way.
Okay, can we have this fight now first?
Well, I just want to say, it's really, really profound. And people miss that all the time. People want to start a business and they just think that people are always under this mindset, build it and they will come.
Right.
And the thing that I'm always telling people is that no one is going to care about you until you care about them first. You have to give them a reason to care.
Amen. That's right.
You did that.
I think the way that you're engaging too, I think other people think that engaging is just like a comment to comment. And I'm like, that is not like, it's not just going through and saying, yep, sure, hi, how are, like, it's like, right. Yeah. It's like, have a real freaking conversation with someone is providing value. If you're a comedian, make that person freaking laugh.
Are we allowed to have real conversations anymore? We lost that.
Real conversations. And so like, for me, like, if I'm ever engaging in someone's stuff, I'm not going to just write like, I'm gonna do something on brand. I'm gonna actually engage with that person, and then I'm probably gonna change S's to Z's at least once, in one blurb, because I think it's ridiculous, and people are like, "That's weird," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I got your attention." So, but it is great to hear that. Like, I know that strategy works because it worked for me, and I think it's worked for Tim, and obviously it worked for you, Kathy. But like, you actually put the real time into it that people aren't willing to put into it because they are just like, oh, well, I engaged.
Yeah.
I engaged in 100 posts. I wrote hi.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Or then they'll LinkedIn message you and be like, hey, we're friends. Buy my damn thing. It's like,
right.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So really, when you distill it all down, like life itself, business is all about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not providing a relationship, I mean, why would somebody do business with you? I want to know who you are and what you have to offer and what you bring to the table, because there's 100,000 others just like you. So what makes you special?
Why do people have different strategies online than they would in person? If you met that person in person, you wouldn't just go up to everyone in that crowd and be like, hi, 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 hi.
Yeah.
Here, just woke up my dog.
Right.
I did. Damn.
Yeah, it's about building a relationship, and that is with other people that you work with, and it's with potential clients and students, and with everybody. I mean, it's all about relationships and showing people that you are a authentic, decent human being is like the most basic first step, and willing to give value to them. And give answers and not hold back and not be like, well, I'll tell you the first, sentence of this paragraph, but to get the entire story, you need to buy my new coaching course or whatever. Right. I'm like, here's everything I know about that. Here's everything that I know that could help you. And then they're going to remember that. And when they need more help, they're going to come back.
And at this point, what's your motivation to keep pushing forward at this point? I mean, are you paying attention to numbers and data, or are you just having fun with everything because you're not necessarily monetizing at this point?
Well, I have. I certainly monetized FUMS. FUMSnow.com. I monetized my blog, my podcast. I started affiliate marketing on there. Started doing reviews. Taking sponsors for my podcast, sponsors for and ads for my blogs. And interestingly, in there about the same time, I started the podcast. I actually started the whole thing just to help people with no intention of monetizing. But the podcast I started because I love the medium. And Zach, I'm not forgetting we have an argument to have yet. But I loved the idea
I'm
that
ready.
I'm going to win. But I loved the idea that you could hear. I'm such a podcast freak myself. I'm such a fangirl that because it is so intimate, somebody's in your ear, you know, when you're working out or going for a walk or doing the dishes or whatever, it just creates this, I don't know. I feel like I know these people and like I'd be a weird fangirl. I think if I saw any of them in real life, because I feel like we're such old friends. And so I wanted to create that kind of same feeling for my folks. So that's why I started FEMF podcast. And but what I want to say to the bigger picture of businesses, I didn't originally have an intention to monetize it. I have been able to, but more importantly, the overall lesson for business is relationships and networking. So that podcast was kind of just out there. I put it on hold for about 18 months. And Zach, that's when you and I knew each other at Hatch, because I started a Facebook page for my local community and I parked everything. But in that time, because that podcast was out there, I was found by the vice president of healthline.com, which is the largest health information company online. And it just so happened they wanted to start a podcast, had no background in it, and reached out and asked me if I wanted to partner with them. And that was the start of a patient advocacy. I don't even know what to call it. There's a patient advocacy industry that I didn't even know existed. And I was found because of my podcast. So I think just being out there, just letting people know what you do and who you are, there's so much value to that. So I wasn't doing a thing with it at the time, but that's how I was found. And then I got in with Healthline doing podcasts for them, and they decided to start which did they start first? I think the app for MS, and they needed a guide, and they asked me, and they had Googled me and they found that I'd started all these communities like the one in Western Branch. And so they asked me to be an admin for their MS Facebook page. Cool. So I do that. And then they saw that I was a writer on my blog. And so they asked me to write for their various publications. So I do that. And eventually I realized I am now making more money working for myself than I was ever working for someone else. And I can do it from my bed. I work from the hospital infusion center. I've worked from the beach in the Dominican, which was lovely. And I had that epiphany, like I'm making more and I'm taking good care of myself and I'm able to, and I've dialed down the stress and all of that. I realized I had this obligation to share that with other people with chronic illness. So that's where Patients Getting Paid idea was born. I have to share this. I have to share my journey, how I did it, why I did it, and here's how you can do it too. I'll show you the path. And that's where, and I now I realize how much I use my hands. There's a lot of jazz hands going on in this interview.
Well, that's exciting stuff.
Can we have this battle?
Okay.
Okay, so
why do you think it's over? It's just getting started. There's lots of room. There's enough room for lots of voices.
I didn't say podcasts were a bad thing. I believe that there are great podcasts. I just believe that most people have missed their chance because they didn't start before. And if you're starting now, it's the compound effect. You're probably not going to see the results. You're probably going to quit. You're probably not going to put in the effort necessary. So you might as well find something else.
So why did you start your triathlon journey? You're not going to be a world-class Ironman.
Oh, so Tim is in Kathy's court. Okay.
I don't even have to say anything. Thank you, Tim.
No, yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, I get your point, I guess, and I don't mean to step in on you, Kathy, but I think that it all comes down to the sports analogy, that if you have the endurance to see things through, and people have their own personal reasons on why they want to do things, and it may not be to be the next Joe Rogan.
Yeah, for sure. Like the MS
I wrote about starting a book. I wrote about in my book to start a podcast, but
you think it's too late?
I just think that there's so many people starting a podcast. It's like,
but to Tim's point, depending on what your goals are. So yeah, the MS space, is small. I mean, there's 2.5 million in all of the U.S. that's pretty teeny tiny little community, right? And it's not so much about my numbers and that sort of thing. I'm helping people. And I know that because I hear from people almost daily, just bringing them information. And B, it's that you're out there. I mean, I would not have been found by Healthline, which has just exponentially blown up my business, if I hadn't been out there and people didn't hear me and people didn't see me and didn't know.
The things that you love, the things that you love are because you jumped on something early. And that's why Healthline found you. They wouldn't find you today the same way that they found you before, because you would be in too cluttered of a place. But you're right, Cream of the Club is there. Look, I still love podcasts. I'm listening to a podcast right now, right? The show is technically, if you really wanted to think about it, it could be a podcast. I just think that you have to be very careful, because people aren't thinking the long-term view. They're thinking, how can I start a podcast to make $1 million right now? And they're not going to put in the effort necessary. And
yeah, it's a lot of work. I mean, it is a lot of work. And as with any business endeavor, you have to go into it knowing that it is long haul and a lot of work. And just, as I said at the top of this interview, as long as you don't quit, you don't fail.
And the other part that is so relevant is the fact that part of to have a successful business, you have to stay relevant and alive long enough to find that product market fit, if you will. And if you can survive long enough, then people are going to find you and that you'll find your place. But so many people quit too early. And
I think I've lost this battle. Start a podcast. 2021.
Well, I wasn't even arguing against that,
Zach. What else should we argue about?
I love arguing until I lose. And now I'm like, damn, I think I just lost this battle.
I think anything that gets your voice out there, whatever the platform is that you're most comfortable, do that. And just do that. Like, I hear too many people go, well, I'm going to start a Facebook page and my Instagram account, and then I'm going to, do the LinkedIn, and I'm going to do the I mean, it's so overwhelming.
Here's an even better way to explain that. I 100% agree. So they're going to do what? 4 things, right? You're saying do one thing, right?
Do one thing and do it well.
And let's say they do the other 4 things, right? A Facebook thing, a LinkedIn thing, and 2 other things, right? Well, what's 100 divided by 4? 25, right? So you're going to put 25.
Math.
That's why I picked easy numbers.
Thank you. I actually knew that one.
Yeah. 100 divided by 6, get out of town, right? If you're doing one thing, you can put all your effort into that thing. If you are doing 4 things, that means you're going to attempt to put 100% effort into something that's probably going to get to 25%. I learned that thought actually from Mark Zuckerberg, where all he cared about when he was starting to grow Facebook was users. That was the metric. And he was like, we want to get to 1 million users. We want to get to, and I think that's the number that they use in the movie, right? Get to 1 million users, get to 10 million users, or whatever their numbers were. But that's all he cared about. We have to get mass adoption of this thing, right? And that's all they cared about was that one metric. And I think oftentimes people are like, I'm going to start this, I'm going to start this, I'm going to start this. And I always advise do one of them.
Yeah. Do one and do it well until you're so comfortable and you're doing well. And then you can do something else, Just
and if you look at the most popular people in the world, they're usually good at one thing, not multiple things from an online standpoint.
Right. Yeah. And there's going to be new things all the time.
Oh, there's something new today. And I'm like, you guys are just like,
and resist that urge. Believe me, I was just invited onto Clubhouse. Are you on Clubhouse yet?
I haven't. So my strategy, my thought to these things is this: is get your user account, get the handle that you want, and decide if you want to get into that thing or not.
Yeah.
Right? I have an account. I have the /Zach Miller Says, which is my thing everywhere, and that's it. I got on it. I was like, okay. I'm not a fan, and especially
it confuses me. So I'm lurking.
Tim, are you doing it?
No.
There you go. It was just like, no.
Probably the smartest of the three of us.
It's a fad. I think it's a fad. And I think there was something else earlier in the year too, and I think that's going to be a fad.
Yeah.
But everything comes down to your point, Zach, is just that I know I have so much on my plate right now that if I was trying to add one more thing, it would be one more thing that I do not as good as all things that I'm already trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So true. And know your limitations and respect them. Like, don't try and do more than you're comfortable with. I mean, this is a concept for people with chronic illness. We have to understand that on a daily basis. You know, I can have a long list of things that I want to do that day, but it's not so much up to me as it is up to my body and what it's going to tell me I'm going to be capable of that day. And you have to respect that. And, you know, and I liken that in business as well. You have a lot of plans that you'd like to accomplish, but give yourself some grace. You don't have to do everything all at the same time. Like, start here, understand what the foundation is, and start there. And each step is a building block. You're not negating what you've already done that way. You're just building on top of it. And that way you don't get overwhelmed. I think people starting in entrepreneurship get overwhelmed very easily. And it can be so overwhelming. You really have to make the decision of what's like just-in-time learning is a concept that revolutionized my life. Instead of constantly learning about the next thing and what else, and after this, I'm going to do this. What do I need to know right now? And that's what I learn and nothing more. What do I need to do next? And do that. And then reassess. Now what do I need to learn? Now what do I need to do? But this concept of here's everything that I can do and everything I want to do, and I need to do it all right now. You will fail. You will. You're going to quit because it's too much.
That said, how do you structure your day? How do you prepare for tomorrow, or how do you prepare for what you're going to do today?
I have really had to get very specific in planning. I really lean heavily on my calendar, and I put everything in my calendar, and I alarm everything. I just recently started using like CoScheduler, trying to automate, trying to do things in bulk. So I'm trying to do like all my podcast interviews in 1 week, you know, for a couple months, bank it up. The CoScheduler is great because it's got all of my social media for FUMS and for patients getting paid. So I can just sit down and fill that in for, you know, a week at a time. My patient advocacy stuff, I have some things very specifically. Like I said, I handle the Living with MS Facebook page for Healthline, and I need to post 4 times a day there. And I've got reports to generate. I've got meetings and that sort of thing. So I really build it around, and I look the night before, I build it around, what do I have to do? What are the things that I absolutely have to get done tomorrow? And I get those done first.
You may know him as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I know him as just a man who has done incredible things for the last few decades. But how can you use his techniques in your business? I'll show you exactly how. Head on over to ZachMillerSays.com/The Rock, and you can smell what he's cooking. Sorry,
The Rock.
I couldn't wrong.
That's okay.
You're like, is that The Rock?
I didn't know he was going to be on this interview.
If we had Dwayne Johnson, the comment that you made about like meeting someone in person, like
right. Yeah.
That would be like sweaty palm moment. I'd be like,
did you speak then?
Excuse me, sir.
Right.
Tim, you got something?
One question that I had before I forget is, what are your go-to podcasts? Are they MS related? Are they business related? I would love to hear what's
yes.
what you listen to.
There's not a ton of MS. To Zach's point, here's another one, Zach. There's not a lot of MS podcasts even now. So just saying. Yeah, I mostly listen to a lot of online business types of podcasts and Marketing Made Easy. And now that I'm building this Patients Getting Paid course, I'm listening to a lot of course conversations on best platforms to use and how to market best for courses and that sort of thing. But yeah, if I'm not on some kind of meeting, I've got these things in my ear all the time. I'm always listening to podcasts.
So it's interesting. You're essentially creating a sense of community through podcast listening.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, try to. And people, I hear from people almost daily that, thank you for this because I learned. Thank you because I met. A lot of people meet each other through this too. So yeah, it's, as I said, I wish I was smart enough to have planned that out. I am not, but I'm smart enough to capitalize on.
If you had planned it out, it wouldn't have worked.
Probably exactly right.
So if you have a vertical, if you're in a vertical that is missing content, or you have a voice that you want to be out there, then start a podcast, right? Is that what we're saying?
Okay, Zach, I can go along with that. Yes. But it's also not just about, again, back to that conversation. It depends on what your goal is. If you're looking for numbers, if you're looking to monetize, if you're looking to just get your name out there, those are different goals, and so different reasons to do it.
No, very fair. Very fair. You said something about bulking and podcast interviews. Did you have like a moment where the podcasts were getting all over the place and it was just like, yeah. So a few years ago when I was doing a lot of interviews, I would be just like that, where it'd be like Monday at 2, like I was just like, oh, book whenever, right? Monday at 2, Tuesday at 11 and 12. And like they'd be all over the place. And then one time I was like, screw it. I was like, FU podcast, right? Like FUMS, throw it in there.
Right.
I was like, this is ridiculous. And so I was like, I'm only going to do them Thursdays from like 1 to 4, and it fixed all the problems.
I have started just at the end of last year. I started utilizing a lot of software to help me. So I mentioned CoScheduler, and then I got Calendly, which again has revolutionized my life because I built all these events, and I can just copy and send a link, and then they can sign themselves up for whatever it is, whether it's a coaching call or a podcast. Now with FUMS, now I'm starting a Patients Getting Paid podcast as well. So I've got 2 separate things. And the beauty about that, I used to speak to people about, I would reach out to them, hey, I think you'd be a great fit. And we'd go back and forth, and then we'd go back and forth about when to book it, and then I would send them questions and we'd go back and forth on that. It was quite the waste of time. And now I send them a link. They see what works on their calendar and what works on mine. They book it, and then immediately they get the questionnaire and fill it out. And it says everything from send me a headshot to, what are your social URLs and all like that. So it has saved me my mind probably.
Yeah. It's been great for me.
Great. Yeah.
As well. Because I would always run into the trap of somebody would want to get on my calendar, and then I'd be like, oh, I'm free tomorrow at such and such time. And then it's like, I had no business scheduling that. Now my day's completely jammed because I tried to put something in there. Whereas to your point, if you block certain days where you can meet with people, then they play into your calendar as you trying to play into theirs.
Right. But the Calendly aspect of it is incredibly applicable here as well, where it is a godsend that 100%. You're just like, look, here it is.
Mm-hmm.
The damn thing.
And if I'm not available for a week and a half, then I'm not available for a week and a half.
Like our show right now, this show, like I think we don't have anything until March.
Right.
Well, find a time.
Right.
Yeah, find a time. Like we're not moving anything. Like this Thursday is at 11. Deal with it. Like you had the link. You should have booked earlier.
Right.
That's right. That's
Kathy,
exactly
I want to hear
right.
more about Patients Getting Paid, about what it is, how you transition to that. Love to hear the spiel.
So I was actually pulling weeds one day, which is where I do my best thinking. And I realized that I was actually making more money than I had working for someone else. And I was now able to take care of myself and, be geographically independent. I can be wherever I want to be and work. And as I referenced earlier, I think you really have an obligation to share when you find something that can help others. That's your absolute obligation to share it with others. So in thinking of how best to do that, I knew I wanted to have some sort of coursework to explain and listing of resources, like where do you go to find these gigs, for instance, in patient advocacy, and how do you build a website, and how do you build a podcast, and how do you monetize those things, and how do you get health insurance? I mean, these are the kinds of questions that people have. How much do you actually make when you write an article for WebMD? And how do you get health insurance if you're not working for somebody else? And how much does that cost? And these are all critical questions in making a decision of doing something, whether it's full-time or part-time or side hustle or something. But there were no answers. I mean, I just kind of had to figure them out for myself. So I wanted to share all of that knowledge with people. And the original intention was I was going to have a membership site because, right, I love community. And I would put the trainings in there, the course in there. And then also I structured where I'd have 4 deliverables a month, including like an Ask Me Anything hour, and some interviews with experts and other patients who are in fact getting paid. And that was all scheduled to go. 10/10/2020, I was going to launch that because that just spoke to my marketer's heart that date. But in September, I guess, I had a big fat MS relapse, put me in bed for a couple of weeks. And that's when I realized that I cannot put that kind of pressure on myself to have 4 deliverables a month. I can't say that I can do that, but I can, when I'm feeling well, record course material and make it evergreen available. So that was the plan. And I came out of that relapse and I felt better and I got stronger, and I kind of was putting the, spit shine on that whole plan. And then my computer crashed not long ago. And I will save the gory details, but apparently this is pure geek speak, but apparently there's a partition on a hard drive, and that is where all of my materials for patients getting paid sat. And that part, just that one little part, was not being backed up. So I'm starting completely over from the beginning. And
so you had it backed up to your knowledge to the cloud, but not.
And yeah. Carbonite, I've been paying Carbonite for years. This is 2.5 years worth of work. And my external hard drive, but there was this one little space apparently that was not being backed up. And that's where all my patients getting paid information. So let's go resilience. I just emailed, this was just a couple of weeks ago, and I emailed my list. So that's the other thing, is start a list immediately. So I was able to email my list and say, you're not going to believe what just happened. But never say die. I mean, I know this is good. I know this is going to help people. So I still have the same knowledge. In fact, I have more knowledge now because that started 2.5 years ago. So let's build back better, right? So I asked people to send me, what do you want to learn? What do you want to know? And how do you want to learn it? And I was inundated with a lot of really thoughtful emails. That's just going to help me build back better. So I'm working.
The Fervent 4 is powered by the Small Business Development Center, which helps local small businesses grow through counseling. If you're interested in learning more on how the SBDC can help your business, head to startwheel.org/weekly. You said build a list. What does that mean?
An email list. So as soon as you start anything online, I'm a huge proponent for put an opt-in form on whatever it is and build a list. And, a lot of people, pretty much everyone says you have to have a lead magnet on there, meaning giving people something in exchange for their email address. And then you capture that email address and then you can use that. You own that, as opposed to like renting.
You don't know. You don't understand who the database of Facebook is. You can't really directly talk to them, right? Yeah.
Well, not only that, but if they make a decision and they change their algorithm, or who knows? When you're using somebody else's real estate, you're at their will.
Right.
And much better to capitalize on capturing your own people. They're interested, get them on an email list. And this is just proof positive. I mean, I was able to, I lost everything, but I'm not starting from scratch because I have this list of low-hanging fruit that not only will I launch to, but I can go to as a resource and say, what do you need? What do you want? And virtually guarantee that I am providing what's going to be helpful to them, which is the key to any entrepreneurship, right? See the problem, provide the solution. Well, I'm going right to the source and saying, what do you need? And I will provide that.
Well, hopefully that company that you use backs up stuff and doesn't use carbonite.
Yeah. Now I'm going to be doing Apple Cloud from now on. But anyway, I digress. But my plan is I'm starting the Patients Getting Paid podcast to interview people like experts, like with disability insurance. A lot of folks with chronic illness are on disability. So how does that work? Can you still make money and maintain your eligibility on disability? Well, you can, actually. That's called a Ticket to Work program. So I'm going to be interviewing experts like that. But also, I think much more importantly, patients who are actually getting paid. I refer to us as chronicpreneurs, where we've gotten out there, and it doesn't have to be patient advocacy. It doesn't have to have anything to do with your illness. Maybe it's something to do with a hobby of yours, but something where you can generate an income and feel productive and have all of the benefits that come with that, mental health, physical health, everything that comes with that, and be able to take care of yourself and generate an income. And I think hearing people that are doing that and really drilling down on things so granular as to their health insurance and how they got it and how much they make by doing each of these things just helps inform everybody to make a better decision on whether this is right for them or not. That's the plan.
I love it.
Tim?
Super insightful. I love the passion. I love the authenticity, the sense of community, building the community. I mean, this was a great episode. I appreciate your time, and I love the story.
So I'm interested in this. Probably the last question, last thought. So a few months ago, I was reading this book. We had scheduled you at this point, and it was a book called, by Wim Hof, and he's known as the Iceman. I don't really know why. I mean, I guess he takes ice baths or something, but
he swims in ice. Yeah,
he swims in ice, right?
Yeah.
I think he has like crazy world records where he's like climbed the tallest mountain in shorts, and that's it. You know, crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, he is crazy.
And so I can't remember if he says that he can cure MS or like things like that. But when people online or these personalities or these people who basically are just what you are, right? You're the expert, you're the authority. How does someone that's consuming this information, I guess, kind of back to what we were saying before, like how do they grasp and understand, like, can this thing actually help me?
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, those people who claim that they have the cure for anything, run. Like I just want to shake people, and I understand it. I understand you want a cure for this thing. So you're willing to, there's this suspension of disbelief. You're willing to believe anything if it could actually help you. I get it. But, I always run it through the filter. If this were true, it would be on every site. It would be on every news media. It would be all over it. So if it's a secret tips and tricks on how to do better with your health or, cure your MS, yeah, run. I know who you're talking about. I've seen actually a video on Goop, and it was really interesting. It's compelling. It's about bringing your core body temperature down. And for MS, that's one of the issues, is that our core body temperature increases and we cannot get it back down again. So I don't doubt that you could probably even put it into remission forever. I don't think so, but it's interesting.
Maybe it's improving. He said, I can't remember.
I'm sure it would improve symptoms. Yeah, but you'd freeze your ass off. I don't know which is worse. Like, I don't want to be that
used to it. Yes, I don't know. I swam in the pool this morning outdoors. It was heated though. So do you think that the media would pick up those things like that though? Because some people think that, well, a lot of people think that there's not a lot, like there's more money in preventative sort of medical standpoint.
Right.
I don't know what the exact language is, but I think you know what I'm saying.
I do. I hear this all the time. Like
better in preventative than actually like
Yeah, big pharma doesn't want to, bite the hand that feeds them. So if you're why would you cure something and it's a one-time payment to them as opposed to them keeping you on the line, right? And just providing symptom care rather than a cure. And the level of conspiracy that would require would be so impressive. There are too many people that would take too many people in too many places, high level and low level, to pull off that. I don't believe that for a minute. I speak to a lot of researchers and I know they are working their tails off and making huge strides. So I will be so bold as to say that I really believe that the answer to MS and autoimmune is going to be found within my lifetime. We're moving at breakneck speed. I'm so proud of all the research that's being done. And, even things like the COVID vaccine, that technology is being utilized now in research for MS as well. So there's a lot of great promise on the horizon. There's a lot to be excited about. I always say there's never a better time to be diagnosed with MS. If you have to have it, now's the time to have it. Because when I was diagnosed, there were 3 drugs. They were all injectables, and that was it. Now there's 20 something, and there's oral, there's infusion, and there's just a ton of research going on. And that's across the board for all autoimmune diseases for sure. But I mean, the future is bright. The future is bright.
You have a fantastic attitude about this, and I think it's contagious, and that's wonderful. So it's been.
You just have to say FUMS. That's why I started that. That has helped me enormously. You have to have the right attitude.
Yeah, I mean, it's FU is the standard FU, like FUMS. I think it's great.
Yeah. Although for people who are more sensitive, I've often said it really stands for functional understanding of multiple sclerosis. It's not true at all.
So okay,
whatever.
Do a lot of people push back at that?
Not a lot, but some have for sure.
How dare you?
Right.
The audacity.
Yes, and at the end of my podcast interviews, for those people who have MS in particular, we always have the same thing where I say, we here in the FUMS Nation speak to the stupid diseases it deserves, and we tell it FUMS every day. And then I say to the interviewee, if you would please lead us in our salute to MS with middle fingers extended, of course. On 3, ready? 1, 2, 3. And they double barrel it and say FUMS. And so like for my 50th, they double barrel it. For my 50th episode, my podcast editor, Steve Woodward with podcastingeditor.com. He's fantastic. Nice plug. He put together like 50 people saying FUMS. And even somebody was in there from, I think, Denmark saying it. So it was, it's an attitude, but cop that attitude in life and keep trying. Never quit.
And that's how we're going to end it. It's been a tremendous show. Kathy, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. We'll end with the jazz hands.
Jazz hands and FUMS hands, and I love it. So, Tim, always good to see you. Kathy, hope to see you again in person at some point in the future. Until next time, we'll see you guys soon. FUMS!
FUMS.